Okay, once again, giving it a shot here in OBS. It was acting silly again, so hopefully this video turns out okay. Then I can throw it up on the Utes. All right, today, art for inspiration. Frank Miller's follow-up to the amazing Dark Knight. The not-so-amazing Dark Knight strikes again. However, this does have a redeeming factor to it. I'm just going to point this out. Bad coloring was at least 75% of why this book was not good. But we're going to check this out. This is a hardcover edition. It's the entire run of DK2 in black and white, full inked. Just Frank. No Lynn Varley. No Lynn Varley. No Lynn Varley playing with Photoshop over Frank's work. Okay. This will be more of a flip through. You can decide whether or not you agree with me, but this definitely is easier to look at without those colors. Yeah, so, and of course, you know, Frank had a lot of style changes by this time. He had already had a bunch of, you know, Sin City under his belt, this and that. So this was kind of a return to like a line art style for him, even though he was dabbling with it a little bit there towards the end of the Sin City books. I'm going to actually jump to the back here. I'm going to show you something here real quick. I was very excited when I first heard about this book through Wizard Magazine. So you might hear a lot of my sniffles. My allergies are off the chain. It's like 109 today. And high pollen. Okay, so Wizard Magazine was sharing a bunch of these images like this right here. And a lot of these look pretty sick. Really nice designs. It was just different. It wasn't super goofy. You know, had a lot of Frank Miller's essence to it, so they were fun. Like this felt very Sin City-esque. He did not give us this in the book. Whatever these preliminary pinups were and whatnot, he didn't stick with this style per se, or at least this quality of work. I feel like these are the best, some of the best stuff in the book, to be honest. But anyways, we're going to look at the published works here. So yeah, like I said, I'm just gonna flip through this thing. Yeah, but much nicer to look at. Feels like a lot more Frank Miller-esque versus the full color DK2 book that was released. Books, plural. And I'll try to get a nice little shot here. Sorry, I have to have the camera kind of on top of the book, otherwise, resolution-wise, it just does not look good on screen. I'm gonna blame OBS. But these here are, you know, very reminiscent of, you know, like the Family Values series with a little bit of line art. He doesn't do a lot of the negative, the reverse negative stuff here, but later on he does rely a lot on full silhouettes on figures, things like this. All right, I'll stop talking. I'm just going to flip through. Again, I believe this was a U.S. released Dark Knight Strikes Again Noir. They also did one of these for, I think, the Court of Owls, and then also Jim Lee's Hush series, Loeb and Lee. So you get to see all of Scott Williams' inks there. I have the unwrapped version of it, which is basically just the pencils with only a few of the pages inked by Scott Williams. Might have a Rich Friend page in there, here and there. I'm not sure. Yeah, Yeah, the other unwrapped books I have are all mainly pencil. So yeah, these noir books, these are going to be uh, representing the full black line art in ink. So, but anyone familiar with this run of books? You know, I mean, it came out forever ago. They paid Frank a ton of money to come back and get this thing out, and it just did not hit any marker for any of us old school fans of these books. I might skip a few pages here just because they can stick, but it's a very thick book, and it gets pressed on my shelf. It's a tight fit up there. So, and of course, one of Frank's strong points, in my opinion, has always been um, composition matched with shapes, and I think he kind of maybe at some point that's why he started really relying on heavy use of shadow and because you can define the shape that way, right? But also it's kind of a shortcut because then you're not relying on any sort of finesse to like the outline strokes or any of that. This is actually a pretty good use of negative space here too. I do like pages like this, even though they're super simplified. Um, I do enjoy them from time to time, but I'm also a lot more accepting of them. Like there's a tiny figure, looks like an ink blot. Uh, I appreciate them more when they are utilized by artists who have a heavy linear style, which Frank doesn't. So it feels more of a crutch versus style, I guess. Versus style slash substance. But yeah, anyways, like I said, this already looks much better. Is one of the worst Supermans Frank's ever illustrated in this run. I don't know what it is. Almost feels like revenge, like almost like he kind of just it's like took the money and ran, sort of feeling to a lot of the work. I do like a lot of these smaller panels like this. They feel very Frank Miller to me, so I kind of dig them. Um, yeah, a lot of this stuff is sort of reminiscent of the first Dark Knight. It's almost like he was given nods to himself throughout this kind of thing right here. But again, I feel like a lot of shortcuts were granted in this, and I don't really know how that worked with DC or editorial over there. Feels like they just gave him free reign, and he just kind of gave him what he gave him, and that was it. Yeah, this is just super janky with a lot of this stuff in here. Um, these books did have some pretty interesting ideas behind the way a lot of these characters became, because they're all like in their older years as heroes, but almost caricaturesque. Yeah, especially who was it? Martian Manhunter later is like a bartender. It's kind of bizarre. Sorry, I'm cutting off a lot of these pages. I'm trying to move it around to the more interesting panels. Like I said, if I don't have this camera right on top. If anyone has a recommendation for a really nice desk cam, I'm currently using I got a 922 and a 960. So, and they both seem to do pretty well in StreamYard. The issue with StreamYard with me right now is that my internet tends to drop. So I don't want to have a 6-minute window where I'm showing stuff off, flipping pages, and it just doesn't take. It's just me making a funny face. Yeah, a lot of these too. A lot of these feel like he might have been inking, and we used to do this back in the day at Extreme. But with these, you got these little these eye drops on top of these ink wells. You can actually ink with them with the tip, with the ink in it, and that's what this feels like. It feels very blotchy and uncontrolled. It's almost like a quick fix way of just laying down shadow, like just to get it down, and then not a lot of cleanup around the edges. So I kind of feel that only because of a lot of the thicknesses here are very similar to one another, and there's a lot of bleed in between on a lot of these lines. They are not sharp. Like a brush is at least going to give you a little bit of consistency. Yeah, this stuff does not. This does not feel like a brush. This feels like I had just shown. Yeah, like that outline right there. It's weird. Or using a flat edge brush and just sort of letting it do its own thing, which can look cool. But he's not using it in that way. It's a giant hands. My buddy hated this so much. I thought it looked kind of cool. But yeah, the original release of these. And then also, this is a pretty cool design layout here. Basically using the line here as a panel breaker. So you use like the shadow on the earth below as the panel breaker to the next panel. This one here is open. The sound effect serves as like a panel breaker with the line of the rocks. Yeah. So Frank, he did a lot of cool stuff in here. But again, unfortunately, it did suffer from terrible digital colors. I think it was Lynn. I think Lynn Varley was the colorist on it, who actually on the original Dark Knight Returns series was phenomenal. It's like just there are some people who just don't transition to the digital use at all. It's a really good example actually of that. So some people, it's like I think hand colored books can still be very strong. I think there should be hand colored books today. There's certainly artists and color artists who, um, you don't really, or at least in the '90s, you didn't really get to see a lot of their work. We would have color guide artists who, when I was at Extreme Studios, they would give stuff to uh, the coloring department, Extreme Color, give it to Dawn or Tanya or Liz Lewis or whoever back there. And it would go to a computer separator who really wasn't great. We only had 5 or 6 back there that were really bending the laws of the computer and what you could do at the time, and just learning new ways to do stuff and new ways to color stuff that was CMYK safe and all that. But every once in a while, you do this crazy, phenomenal color guide, and it goes to someone who is a weekend warrior. They're there to make a couple bucks. You need some pages made. They're just sort of kind of trying to paint by number it, and it's just end of the day, it's just terrible work. Yeah, some of the stuff is just really bizarre. I don't know, and it's a really strange book too. I feel like this book really had an opportunity, at least for Frank, to kind of, I don't want to say put him back on the map, but at least with like a lot of mainstream fans, because a lot of people uh, didn't really follow him over. Uh, they would reminisce in his old printings of Daredevil books and um, different prestige format books at Marvel and stuff. They had no interest in the Sin City stuff, so him kind of coming back and doing this was a big deal. And like I said, those sketches I showed at the beginning of the video, man, it got a lot of us to put that on our hold bags. Like, oh yeah, I cannot wait for this book to come out. It's gonna be so sick. And then what you got is like, oh no, man, I don't know if I'm coming back next month for this. I think I actually dropped the third book. I think is when I actually exited, left. But yeah, again, like I say, looking at this work in the inks with what Frank did, Frank inks himself. Um, there's enough interesting things going on here where it is fun to look at. And to be fair, um, if this book came out, if these books came out in black and white like this, and it was not if Frank Miller was not the advertised artist on it, um, I feel like people would be a lot more forgiving of what came out when these books were released originally, and definitely would have stood out, on the shelf. But it's you're going to compare it to their other great efforts on the same characters, and when it doesn't hit, it doesn't hit. But he would do a lot of this weave in and out thing where it felt like he's kind of coming back. It's like, oh man, he's coming back. And then he gives you pages like this with like this weird manga anime thing. I don't even know. I actually opened this. I remember opening this book and seeing this specific face, and I was like, oh no, oh no. And then a lot of this caricature stuff, Jay Leno, and summary. It might be the nose. A lot of these artists are very obsessed with like Nixon. But yeah, this is a pretty cool idea right here. This feels like an advertisement. You get to see the powers. You got Plastic Man, Catwoman. Kind of going up the side of the building thing, and then you have the whole cascading caption boxes and all that. But yeah, I would say so. The reason I'm showing this too, this is not like necessarily like a go-to book. This is like something for me to sit back, chill out, and just look at. And it is fun to look at. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of stuff in there where you kind of start looking at, oh, what did he do with these bolts? What did he do with these, uh, all this iron stuff, and kind of looking at some of the nuances that he actually did throw in on characters and some of the angles of the hands and how he kind of tackled, Knuckles and stuff. Um, so that stuff is interesting. Um, but like for a complete package, I would give this black and white edition here, honestly, if I compared it to what Frank's capabilities were at the time, uh, probably a six. I mean, a 6.5 out of 10 is what I would give it in black and white. As far just because he came off really really strong work in Sin City and then gave us this. It's that Martian Manhunter I was talking about. Yeah, almost looks like oh geez, what's his name? That cartoon, that rock dude, Herculoids. It looks like that. Um, but yeah, in color, yeah, maybe pushing a 2.5 out of 10. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's that much of a difference. I would say easily a 4-point gap between looking at it in black and white and how much the art degrades from the finished color print version. So yeah, a little more than halfway through this, guys. So we can keep going. Yeah, this page is weak. This is terrible. This page is okay. This page is all right. Yeah, some of these, like, like you look at the sketches of like Hawkman and stuff, and then you kind of see what he gave you here. It's literally silhouettes, couple close-ups, nothing special. uh, but then you get these sketches which are like, let's see if I can find that Hawkman again. Yeah, you get these sketches like this, like that's savage. Look at that. This is what they were advertising and what was coming out, and then this is what you get, right? Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Like I said, when it was originally coming out, it's not that often that I would get angry about a comic, but there was definitely words had with my friends and I talking about it, and yeah. So it took me years. It took a few decades for me to decide. You know what? I'm going to grab this Noir edition and check it out, kind of see. Just because, man, those colors. Again, I keep going back to it, but those colors were so bad. Um, it does give it a little kick in the butt, as far as like, I judged it so harshly because of those colors. But also it is a bit lackluster overall, more than a bit, but you know what I'm saying. I don't even know what's going on by this point here. It's just white out paint brushes over silhouettes and stuff. So I don't really understand. You got, that's a pretty cool panel right there. Uh, this, I can't even tell you what this is. According to this, Metropolis. I don't even know what I'm looking at here. It's like a Rorschach. All right, where are we going? Okay, so then again, back like I said, almost looks like inks with an eye drop. Possibly some crow quill or some brush ink outline stuff, and they kind of came in and just hit it up real fast. Because this is also not very, a lot of these white dots and stuff. I guess these look kind of intentional. He does tend to spot black completely, and he does complete fills. He doesn't really do a lot of texturing or splatter effects. I think we're near towards the end here. Super bright Batman. It's just almost white. Looks more like Mark Millar's Nemesis than Batman there. Yeah, again, really, really relying on almost. It's almost like, this is where the computer colorist would hook you up, but obviously he was working with uh, just bad colors. I think this layout was reused. I feel like this was reused in the new Ronin series that he's providing his layouts on. Yeah, it's just bizarre, really bizarre. Um, these characters are drawn weird like this because they actually are like, they're not supposed to be 100% human at human in appearance, so that's why kind of cartoony. Yeah, some of these layouts here, definitely very cool shots. Uh, just overall, didn't go all in. Definitely didn't go all in. Some of the stuff's a little hard to read. Um, yeah, but there might have been some deadline stuff going on too, or maybe he was just trying to get out of the book. Yeah, there was an opportunity right here to do a really cool panel. This stuff just looks goofy to me. I didn't like any of the tech in this book. Even with me giving it a second chance with the art. But you know, there is cool stuff. Like this is dope. This is cool. Cool shot. Not to focus on the negative. Uh, very Sin City esque right here. He's got the cons. You guys know I'm a fan of the Chucks. Yeah. So these here, these kinds of scenes, they let him kind of bend back, you know, to his strengths, which are shadows and cool different ways of rendering faces and things like that. You know, not having to focus too much on outlines, because then you get this. it's just, yeah, it's really weird. I don't know. There's just so much going on here that my brain has never processed correctly. Yeah, is that Marilyn Manson? Yeah, like, oh my god. But yeah, anyways, anyone out there who draws, if you're looking for any kind of inspiration for finding new dynamic ways to throw heavy shadows, use heavy shading on characters or panels, or really just any sort of baked in lighting, this is a great book for that. You need to find some new shortcuts. You can find a few of those in here as well. Yeah, this is one of the more interesting pages here. Again, there's a. I can't say I blame him, but man, he just was like, I ain't drawing a chain. No chains. I'm gonna silhouette those. Not drawing chains today. We'll draw a giant fist though. There you go. This does look pretty cool. It's kind of how I draw my hands. I learned how to draw hands off of Frank and Eric Larson. Those are my two go-tos. Uh, the Bony Knuckle Brigade. That's kind of where I learned. Man, look how many panels are in here. This is insane. This is like 30 ups. We got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 panels here. Was it worth it, Frank? It's kind of cool. Kind of cool to see. I don't know if it's effective storytelling. I feel like comics kind of moved away from that 15 years before this book came out. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, but there is a lot to digest. You know, you kind of sit here and you kind of look at these characters and a lot of the line choices that he had. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see him as an artist, like what he decides he wants to spend the time on, and then other things where he's like, he's like, it's time to eat. It's dinner time. I'm out. There you go. You can join the First Church of the Last Sun, the Lost Planet Krypton. Yeah, some interesting concepts here. Yeah, terrible ending. Cool panel. Cool panel to exit on right there, though. But again, let's take a peek at these sketches again. Hoodwinked. Gave us a bunch of cool sketches. Got us all emotionally involved. We were like, oh, can't wait. Can't wait for it. Can't believe Wizard Magazine got a hold of these sketches. Yeah, these are pretty sick. They're pretty cool. Yeah, I'd be interested to find out the story behind that. Like, were these used to pitch an idea, and they were like, "Yeah, those are dope. We're doing this," and then he just was like, "Nah, I'm not doing that." All right, guys, that's it. Let's see here. This thing says it retails for $39.99. You could probably find it for cheaper, just because this was not Frank's finest moment, but it is worth checking out, I would say. If you're an artist, as a collector, hard pass probably. But if you're an artist, and like I said, you're looking for different ways of shading techniques as far as spot blacks, use of negative space, things like that, uh, probably be worth your time. Uh, Highly do not recommend the color version of this, but yeah, this one here, Batman Noir, Dark Knight Strikes Again, all black and white. Check it out.